Hello, fellow ethnographers and Dr. Tillman. I'm here at the studios of Growing Boulder in Winter Park. And Growing Boulder is a nationally seen television show. And with me is Jackie Carlin, who's the executive producer of Growing Boulder. And Jackie's here primarily for moral support because I'm a novice at this. And so she's going to help me out if I falter. But Jackie, you know I'm a country music fan, right?
Absolutely.
And there's a country song that I especially like that I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, to please read the lyrics of the chorus for us.
I'd be happy to. All right. If I could have one wish today and know it would be done, I would say everyone could stay till they're too old to die young. It's a really nice sentiment, isn't it? But why not do more than just stay?
Exactly. We don't have to just stay. We can make use of the time that we've been given. And the way we age and the way we make use of our time is largely within our control.
Now, Randy, I'm not sure if your class is aware of this, but you actually help us publish Growing Boulder Magazine. Well, not help us publish, you are a publisher of Growing Boulder Magazine, so that's sort of how we entered each other's universes. And I'm curious, because I like hearing it from people on the outside of Growing Boulder, how did your interactions with us and exposure to us change your views on aging?
Well, we work with a lot of publishers, a lot of companies that do magazines, and usually it's just a job, but this one actually ended up changing the way I think about a lot of things. I've always been someone who dreaded aging because I bought into all the negative stereotypes about aging that we've been conditioned to believe ever since we were little kids. And the older I got, the more I feared that I would become one of those negative stereotypes. And meeting Mark and working with you guys has totally changed the way that I think about growing older.
Well, you mentioned Mark there briefly. Mark Middleton is our founder and CEO of Growing Boulder, and a lot of this was his brainchild and inspiration. And I think like me and everyone that comes into contact with him, you're just infected with his enthusiasm and inspiration. And I'm just curious, how has he personally impacted you?
Well, as I said, Mark changed the way I think about aging, and he's helped thousands of other people do the same thing. Now I look forward to, well, I can't say I look forward to growing older, but I look forward to doing it in a different way than I might have otherwise. I look forward to doing new things, learning new things, maybe even reinventing myself at a late age and doing something entirely different. The options are almost endless. And that's what I've learned from Mark. And that's the reason I chose him to do my narrative of Other, because we're supposed to choose someone who has impacted our lives in some way. And Mark has certainly done that for me. All of you guys have.
Well, as some of your students may or may not know, Mark is an Emmy award-winning storyteller, and through here at Growing Boulder, we've also been nominated for several awards and have really made an impact not only locally but across the world. So, can you give your students a little bit of preview of what they're about to see?
Well, Mark and I had a conversation about his philosophy and his work and his life, and what we're about to see are excerpts from that conversation that really describe the Growing Boulder ethos and sort of distill what Growing Boulder is all about and review some of the things that impacted me when I first heard Mark talk about them. And it should be interesting, and I think because Mark is a professional communicator and, as Jackie said, an Emmy-winning broadcaster, I felt that his message would have more impact coming directly from him than it would if I just wrote about it. And I've written about Mark before, so I thought we'd just do it in a different format this time.
Well, as they say in the movies, not so much in the newsroom, but in the movies, let's go to the tape.
Well, it really was a dream job, and I wasn't unhappy there. I just kind of wanted it to be more. I was a little discouraged when the business model changed for local news nationwide. It became more about crime than celebrating what happened in a community. And I always thought that news should be as much about celebrating what happens as it is about reporting on the bad things that happen. So I worked really hard to try to create and get the station to allow me to produce the kind of stories that I wanted to do. And the stories that I found myself wanting to do were the inspiring stories of older people that were living extraordinary lives. And when I was unable to get the station to go along with that, then I had to make a decision myself. And even though I was discouraged by what was happening, I didn't leave for a negative reason. I left for positive reasons. I left for aspiration. I wanted more. I didn't want to start a business. I wanted to start a movement. And I think it was proof that the spirit of entrepreneurship is ageless. It never existed in me before that. I can tell you, I honestly had never thought for a moment in my entire life about starting a business. I didn't know how to start a business. I just had this deep passion for wanting to live every moment of my life in a way that was purposeful and passionate for as long as I could. And I realized there was no one else out there that was talking about that. And it was an opportunity for me to create a media platform around that. The overall mission of Growing Bolder is nothing short of actually rebranding aging. In fact, we've trademarked that as a slogan. And I have to tell you, the overall vision for what we're doing, for what we wanted to do, for what we want to achieve, really hasn't changed much at all from the very beginning. How we're doing it has changed. The vision has always been to create a global multimedia platform that enables us to get our message of optimism, of hope and inspiration and possibility to people wherever they are. And of course, during the time that we've launched this, we've primarily transitioned from an analog world to a digital world. So the goal is to be on every platform that there is. We started first online. I built the first version of Growing Bolder in my living room after teaching myself how to use Dreamweaver. It was not good, it was not very exciting, but it did enable me to put on a single page and then 2 pages and then 3 pages what Growing Bolder was. And when you start seeing what the messaging is, when you start seeing the stories, people begin to understand it. I started the radio show 30 days after I left my job with the NBC affiliate in Orlando. After the website and the radio show, we decided to create a television program. So we now have a television program that's available in 60 million homes nationwide, will soon be available in 150 million homes nationwide. We have a magazine, we have a radio show, we have a network of online resources, we have a bloggers team that blogs for us. We produce documentaries. We, just about any way we can get the message out is what we're trying to do. If there was a single instance that led to me leaving my job in television and starting Growing Bolder, it was when the station shared with me market research. When we interviewed people, the first question that we asked them is, how old are you? And if the answer was over 55, we literally discontinued the interview. And I said to them, you don't care about the opinions of people over the age of 55 when the average age of our viewer is 57.5, which, by the way, is the average age of local news viewers nationwide. And they said, well, it's not that we don't care about their opinions, it's primarily that advertisers don't. And I thought that was the biggest oversight that I had ever heard, but I really couldn't substantiate it. So I spent literally a year studying demographics and just became infatuated with the baby boomer generation, the 76 million men and women that were born between 1946 and 1964. And when you factor in immigration, there's about almost 80 million of us now. And the youngest baby boomer turned 53 this year. So as I studied about the group, I realized it wasn't just a big group of old people, because who cares if that's all it is. It was a different group than any 50-plus generation that has ever lived, in the way they wanted to live, in the way they consumed. And I became convinced, and none of this was original ideas of mine. I mean, it's all out there. I mean, you could read it. There were people writing about it 20 years ago that retirement would become an outdated concept, that we were going to have the opportunity to live meaningful lives for 2, 3, even 4 decades after what's considered to be normal retirement. I thought this was a tremendous opportunity to create content. One of the core tenets about what we do, one of the decisions that we made from day one, is that we wanted to tell stories primarily of ordinary people that are living extraordinary lives. And yes, we go after celebrities and we get national and global thought leaders because they can add some gravitas to what we're doing. But really what we like to do and what we do, we feel better than anybody, and the most value that we bring to this mission is simply telling the stories of ordinary people that are living extraordinary lives, that are living lives of purpose and passion into their 80s, 90s, and even 100s. Because when we can see ourselves in others, that's where the real magic occurs. If we're telling stories about genetic super freaks or someone that's got more money than they know what to do with, and they can afford to hire personal trainers and mentors and all of that, it's harder for people to relate to. So the stories that I enjoy most and the people that have inspired me the most are people that most people have never heard of, or certainly wouldn't have heard of were it not for Growing Bolder. When we started Growing Bolder, from the very beginning, we wanted it to be the antithesis of what most people thought it was going to be. We did not want to produce what people imagined to be senior public affairs programming. So from the very beginning, we always stop and try to tell ourselves what Growing Bolder is, what Growing Bolder represents. And the overall goal has always been to build a brand. When we say Growing Bolder, people understand what that means. We've always wanted to step back and be sure that we can defend the ground that we've stood upon. This is Growing Bolder, this is what it means, this is what it doesn't mean. So yeah, just in the course of doing this and being content creators, it just made sense at some point to actually put it down in writing, to create videos, to go ahead and describe what the Growing Bolder Manifesto is. And I guess to take it right down to the bottom line, the Growing Bolder Manifesto is stop growing older and start growing bolder. I think we can all remember when we truly felt that anything was possible, and at some point we began to believe that it was too late, that the best days of our life were behind us. Well, the good news is that it is never too late. It's never too late to reinvent ourselves. It's never too late to pick up an instrument, to start a business, to undertake a new hobby. Dreams don't have an expiration date, and that's part of what Growing Bolder is about, is realizing that no matter how old we are, the rest of our lives can truly become the best of our lives. Ageism, like racism and sexism, is rooted in fear and ignorance, and there is no shortage of either one of those in our culture. And ageism is something that affects the future of all of us, because age is a fate that only the unfortunate escape. So Growing Bolder exists primarily to destroy the insidious cult of youth, because our culture has lied to us, the media has misled us, we've been deceived by our family, our friends, and even ourselves, because age is not a disease, it's an opportunity. When our skin begins to wrinkle, our dreams do not begin to die. It has been proven time and time again that the biggest, the most important lifestyle determinant of how we age is neither our diet nor exercise. It's right here, what the mind believes, the body embraces. And when you live in an ageist culture and you believe that as you reach these aging milestones that you have less opportunity, that you're going to get weak instead of growing stronger, that's actually what happens. We so anticipate the negative benchmarks of aging that we actually now create them. I'm going to say this as kindly as I can. Get off the couch and get into life. Do you long for more? Do you want to live with more passion and purpose? Then you've got to get off the couch and go find it. Quit waiting for life to find you, and quit waiting for permission to find it. Get moving right now. Pessimism is the soul killer. You have to be optimistic about your future. Be optimistic and take a leap of faith. Pursue your passions, look for your purpose, and don't say, I don't have a purpose. It's probably just because you haven't found it, and that's absolutely because you stopped looking for it. Go out there with a great deal of optimism and know that the world has great things in store for you. As we get older, we have to be willing to say yes to the opportunities that present themselves, and we have to be willing to take risk. This is the age of opportunity. If not now, when? And as we take these risks, we have to understand that we will fail. A lot of people can't handle failure. The big question is, how many times are you willing to fail before you achieve success? Because everybody does, at least at first. One of the main tenets of Growing Bolder is always move forward, but always give back. Help others any way you can. Sometimes just a single simple act of kindness can not only change someone's day, but can actually change their life. A critically important exercise for everyone is simply to close their eyes and imagine someone that's 80 or 90 or even 100 years old. Because what you imagine to a large extent will determine what life holds for you, because again, what the mind believes, the body embraces. So we always have to believe that the best is yet to come. If you believe that, then you will help transform your life, and by transforming your life, you will be an example for others about what's possible in their life. Because the most important example, the most powerful weapon that we have in the war against ageism is the simple example of an ordinary person that is living an extraordinary life. And each and every one of us has the capability, has the capacity to be that person.